Here we go. I'm gonna make this bigger. Okay, so I am now with Luigi Leonardo, and he's actually a scholar in European law, defense, and security issues in Europe and its context. And he's a professor at University College Cork in Ireland. He's also the author of Russia 2022, the war against Ukraine. And he's here to talk to us a little bit about the security and defense context of Moldova in relation to the Ukrainian war, and once again, as background, background chatter in preparation for our production next week in Moldova. So, Luigi, thank you very much for talking to me. This is, of course, a very informal conversation. So there are really four questions I want to ask you. The first one is really about the position of Moldova in relation to the Ukrainian war. How do you see it, and what do you think? What role do you think it plays in the context of the conflict?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So the main strategic importance of Moldova, the Republic of Moldova, in the conflict is due to its geography and to its demographics. The geography is because Moldova is between Ukraine and the European Union. So it's a neighboring country of Ukraine and of Romania. It means that it has a degree of proximity with the conflict. It means that a lot of people who fled Ukraine were received by Moldova. And at the moment, I think around 3% of the Moldovan population is constituted by people who fled the conflict in Ukraine. And geographically, Moldova also has a breakaway region, a separatist region called Transnistria, which is part of the country of Moldova, but in which there are Russian troops that are present there. This is a Russophone minority region, and it tends to be closely linked with Russia. There is also another reason why Moldova is of strategic importance at the moment, that it has another independentist region called Gaugatia, which has elected a few weeks ago a self-styled pro-Russian governor. This is a region inhabited by a Turkic ethnic minority. The other reason is demography, because Moldovans are speakers of an official language of the European Union, Romania, although with some distinctive characters, but there is a significant Ukrainian and also Russian, in any case Russophone minority in the country. These two elements essentially may give the impression, as the Moldovan public officials say, that Moldova is next in Putin's plans on Eastern Europe, or at least that Moldova would have been next if the invasion of Ukraine were successful.
Oh, do you think, is your impression that Moldova is actually next?
Well, it looks like the Ukrainian resistance has managed to prevent that Moldova would be next at the moment. It is clear that Moldova is taking steps in case what is for them, what is for their current government, the worst case scenario would happen.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think would be the use of a Russian or Russian-friendly Moldova? I mean, other than establishing sort of, the Russian footprint in the region. I mean, it's a very small country. It has a very small sort of, commercial footprint. It doesn't have really a lot of international projection. It is true that it's in a rather particular geopolitical situation, because obviously it stands at the gates of the European Union. But what is there for Russia to gain in Moldova?
Well, Russia has a well-tested strategy of influencing through hybrid operations, through journalistic campaigns, Russian-speaking minorities in Central and Eastern Europe. It is not just Moldova per se that is being targeted by this Russians' attempt at influencing the country, but Russian narrative exists and is apparently taking hold also in other countries in the region, such as also including in the European Union, such as in Slovakia. So it is not specifically in Moldova itself.
But what do you think? I mean, so my question again is, what do you think that the Kremlin stands to gain from having a foothold in Moldova?
What the Kremlin stands to gain in geostrategic interest is very simple. Since there is already a Russian military presence in Transnistria, joining the Russian army between Transnistria and the currently occupied areas of eastern Ukraine would essentially enable Russia to cut off Ukraine from the sea. And that would essentially make the Ukrainian economy non-existent. It would transform Ukraine into a failed state.
Okay, but I mean, at the same time, it would really mean that you would need to have, I mean, so in a sense, I think that the thing that I see is that had the Russians full control of Moldova, were this really the plan? I mean, in a way, you would end up with a bigger Transnistria, right? Because Western Ukraine would still be Western Ukraine and Romania would still be Romania. And to some degree, Moldova would remain a small sort of enclave, maybe all pro-Russian, but it's still a small enclave in a sort of, in a kind of unclear environment. Do you think this is the right way to look at it, or?
It is difficult to fathom what exactly would be Putin's endgame for the region, but it is clear that it would still be in Russia's interest, security interest, to have a country that is decisively not orbiting towards the European Union, the West, and NATO in the way that Moldova is doing at the moment. It would create or recreate the so-called buffer zone between the territory of Russia and NATO and the European Union.
Right. Okay, so my last question, you've been very kind, and I just want to know, what kind of issues are the ones that you're paying most attention for Moldova and for the region, really? I mean, for this point of contact. So the EU and Western Ukraine, Moldova.
I think there are two main areas of interest, and these are energy and the discussion of the neutrality enshrined in the constitution of Moldova. On energy, because the energy market is witnessing highly unusual developments at the moment. It's not business as usual. So Ukraine and Moldova managed to connect their energy grid to the European continental energy grid, which basically means that they unplugged themselves from Russia and connected themselves to the grid that other EU member states have. This is entirely unprecedented because it took place in a matter of few days, whereas it usually takes years.
With a lot of European help, right?
Exactly. This means that both the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine are seeking the European Union's hand, and this would also mean for the Republic of Moldova probably abandoning the commitment to neutrality that is enshrined in the EU constitution and which is in the Moldovan constitution. Which
they have already given very strong signs of, right?
It seems to me that de facto Moldova, by having bilateral agreements related to military and security matters with Romania and Germany, and participating in the Partnership for Peace with NATO, and having requested to join the European Union, has de facto abandoned the policy of neutrality.
Okay. So Luigi, thank you very, very much. That was very informative. I will probably bother you again in the next couple of weeks, but this is certainly stuff that I will be noting and sort of continue to think through as we move next week through Moldova and sort of assist the summit.
Thank you.
So yeah, I encourage people to actually follow you on Twitter, and I encourage people to read you actually to read Russia 2022. And yeah, please be in touch with us, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. Bye. Wait a second, I'm going to turn on the recording if I figure out how.